you don't have to be the next Mark Zuckerberg, right? Like, I think with entrepreneurship, people said you have to invent the next unicorn and the next thing. And through my years of business, I realized you don't have to reinvent anything. You can actually do what works, but do it in your own way, with your own energy, with your own style, with your own way of saying it.
Welcome to Don't Step on the Bluebells, the podcast where personal healing and transformation take center stage. I'm your host, Amanda Parker, and I'm a fellow seeker on the journey of personal growth. Join me as I delve into the stories of gifted healers, guides, and everyday people who have experienced remarkable transformations. Listen in as they share their practical wisdom to enrich your everyday life. And don't forget to hit subscribe and never miss a new episode. Welcome to today's episode of Don't Step on the Bluebells. I am here with the remarkable Jacob Peggs. I am so excited to have this conversation. For those of you who don't know, Jacob is an extremely successful businessman. He's a solopreneur. He's a creator. He's based in Cyprus, and he is known for shipping businesses like a mother flower, and also known for his signature method of having one offer, one post, one email a day. So I have been following Jacob's journey probably for about a year now and have been so incredibly impressed by what you're creating that I could not wait to invite you to come here and share a bit of your journey with us.
You think it's a pleasure, and it's awesome hanging out, going through all that we're going to go through, and very grateful to be here and ready to explore whatever that may be.
For anyone who's listening, I mean, Jacob is like a prolific creator. So if you are on LinkedIn or YouTube or Instagram, you have definitely come across all of his content, which is incredibly not only valuable, but also very humble. Like the way that you share your own journey of entrepreneurship and the way that you share the business lessons that are literally changing people's lives. You're doing it in such a way that is like accessible, that no one feels stupid, no one feels left behind. I would love just to ask if that was your intention when you began helping people with their businesses.
Honestly, I get asked that a few times, and my response is always sort of leading with the heart. And I think I was a jazz musician once upon a time in what feels like a previous life. I never enjoyed being on the stage. I liked being on the floor with people. So whenever I played guitar or anywhere, whenever there was no stage and people were just around, the community and all, it felt like I was performing from the same floor rather than up above on a stage. So now, as we can see, like I've got my daughter's whiteboard and things, like everything I doodle, everything I say, I always mean it from a place that is on the same floor as someone else. And I think it just comes out naturally that way. Like we are all created equal. I may be one or two steps ahead in the thing that I'm talking about, and I want to share it as the same way I shared my guitar pieces or my other arts and things. So I'm glad you point that out, because I think even when we first chatted, it's always about being more of a guide than a teacher in my world. Like a consultant always has the right answers. A guide is just your buddy who's next to you on the journey, right?
I also want to share with everyone who's listening that this conversation, I mean, like you really know business and you know it intimately in a way that many people, I would say, either don't know or haven't been able to figure out for themselves. And I know also from my own personal journey that just this process of creating a business and sticking it out and like figuring out all these details along the way, including who the hell am I and what do I do and why am I doing this, that it really is a healing journey. And for me, I've been wanting to showcase for so long, especially a lot of the listeners are healers themselves, but I've really wanted to showcase how running a business can be a journey towards healing. And that's like the crux of what I'm so excited to go into.
Oh, that's amazing. And I've always said, for me as a writer, as an artist, I feel more artist than business owner. So at times, and I'm like, writing is healing. Showing up to your own business is healing. going through those ebbs and flows has a lot of frequency and energy and all of that. And I think probably most logically minded business owners, like I don't want to like point at them, but they have the healer and the frequency and the energy in them. They just hide it or they're not aware of it. And once you do become aware, the ride and the journey is so much more fun.
Just hearing you say that there's this element of creating a business, especially in 2026, let's say, that there's a million people who want to tell you how to do it the right way. So it doesn't feel like a healing journey often because you just feel like you're getting it wrong every day. And like there's something that's why what you do is attractive because there's a softness to how you present it. It's not guru sage on the stage, which I also hate and have fallen for and all of that. But it's literally like here is one way to run a business. This way happens to work for me. Feel free to adopt it on your own as well.
Yeah, or adopt 5% or 25%. It doesn't have to be 100. It can even just be passing through it. But you're absolutely right.
So, if you were to explain to your 5-year-old self what it is that you do, how would you describe your work?
You very rightfully said it at the beginning, right? I ship businesses like a mother flower. I have a little saying where the agency ate me whole. I once had a web development agency. My journey started as a freelance web developer, went from the US to the UK, did the whole, from employee, starting my own business. And then through that, I realized I was really good at marketing and writing, where my heart was more on the creative side and less on the coding building side. So when I switched things over and started consulting, I now own Modern Maker. So again, embracing the making. So there is the builder, but essentially, what I do is I help people install little machines, little systems, little engines that bring clients and leads and things to them so they don't have to go and get them. For me, the message is always once you install the system one time, then you get to sit in your creator seat and express yourself through your writing, through your content, and allow that expression to get people into the system or the funnel. And then that will work its magic.
So, this is going to be such a ridiculous question to you, but like there will be people listening who are like, what's a funnel? You don't have to go into a masterclass, but maybe just like explain a little bit what exactly that means for, someone who hasn't ever done that.
Yeah, that's actually good that you're challenging me this way. I'm so immersed in the world that I forget. But essentially, you can post on LinkedIn, on Instagram as you normally would, right? And you write content or you shoot a reel or a podcast or video. Sometimes you have content that explains things. Other times you tell your story. Other times you might ask someone to raise their hand. You might give them a free lead magnet or a PDF or an asset or get them off the platform and into your email list, for example. That in itself is a funnel because you're moving them away from social media into your email. You can move them from social media to your calendar to book a call. That is also a very basic funnel. But essentially, a funnel is a way. I say it's a series of easy yeses that lead to a transaction, whether that is monetary or not. When I say shipping businesses like a mother flower, it is always iterating and testing different projects, different products, different services, different businesses until you find one that sticks. And then you're basically getting somebody from social media to your bank account through that process, which is the funnel that you make.
Yeah, I think that's also a good reminder to people who are listening, also to myself, to anyone who's even been in business for a long time. Most people don't get it right on the first try.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
always an iterative process and like what Jacob's talking about, this funnel process. I mean, he also figured this out over years, of course, but you could try something and find out and it might not work. And it doesn't mean you're not good at what you do. And it doesn't mean people don't want what you have. It just means you haven't found the right way to reach them in the like exact moment in life that they're facing right now.
Yeah, and also you don't have to be the next Mark Zuckerberg, right? Like I think with entrepreneurship, people said you have to invent the next unicorn and the next thing. And through my years of business, I realized you don't have to reinvent anything. You can actually do what works, but do it in your own way, with your own energy, with your own style, with your own way of saying it. And just like, I mean, I don't know where in London, but in Cyprus, we have a lot of accountants left, right, and center who do exactly the same thing, but most of them are different by personality or they have a different way of doing it. And it's like, you're not reinventing accounting, you're just reinventing who's saying it and with what story.
I love that because I come from a long line of accountants.
Oh yeah. Well, good.
So, dad, if you're listening,
This one's for you.
yeah. So that's a great like foundation already just to getting an understanding. But I'm really curious. I mean, I know you didn't just start shipping businesses. And you mentioned like a little bit starting in the web design field, but how did you get to this place where modern maker became your primary place of business?
As I said earlier, like I picked up my guitar and went to study jazz in Cal State. I lived in Dominguez Hills in Long Beach as a young 20-year-old. Got a one-way ticket there. And in my second year of university, there was something called Bitcoin at the time, which was developed on something called a blockchain. And I ended up spending more time figuring out what the hell that was instead of playing jazz. Um, so I realized there that my curiosity was being pulled towards technology, and that obviously I still play guitar to this day and I absolutely love it. There's the guitar right there in the back, but it is me going, this is what I want to do. And I became obsessed with like figuring out this little system again, like what is this currency, what is this thing. And have in mind I had no idea what any of this was. I had zero understanding. So I pursued, my own research, and through that, to cut long story short, I got a master's at UCL in London, where I wrote my thesis on subscription services, predicting that things like Netflix and Spotify pre their existence would come to life, and then wrote my thesis on Spotify and sent them my thesis. I didn't get the job, but I got a lot of insight on how networks and things worked and whatever. And then from there, next to us, there was a company called Revolut, who was a startup. And they did payments and transactions, and they weren't quite Bitcoin, but they were close enough in British pounds. And I started applying to places like that, and was a self-taught web developer basically, and then did the agency world there. But I was always very curious, so I think at age 23 I tried to launch an app that delivered food to your door as recipes, but it was so ahead of its time. Like I just couldn't find funding, it flopped, it failed miserably. And then a few years later in London, there was a startup called Gusto, I think, that just raised millions to do exactly that. And from there, like I tried a hairdressing app, I tried a algorithmic trading bot for crypto, where I figured out a way to trade without me pre AI with technology. And I made my first 100K as a 22, 3 year old. So I tried to then turn that into a startup. That flopped. I didn't know how to lead a team. I didn't know how to raise money. I was just a nerd in my basement shipping things. But all that to say, I was like, hold on a minute. There must be something that's going to catch. And the first time it was still in this cryptic universe where you may have heard of the metaverse, from where all these strange cartoons were sold as NFTs in the crypto space with weird monkey faces and whatever. And we tried to run ads in the metaverse and we raised 1.2 million. And that was the first time I went, hey, the bedroom experiment worked. And we assembled a little team, and this was in London. But by shipping different things and following my curiosity, I was withering from being employed in startups to trying to create my own. I always just shipped wherever my mind was and I tried to be the next Zuckerberg until I realized, hold on, why don't I just code and do something really basic like build a website? People need those things. And then got a job there at an agency and decided to build my own websites. And that's when my agency was born, not reinventing the wheel, just building them our way. Scaled that to 500,000 a year with a team of 7. And it was very easy. I didn't have to invent anything new to ship. I just had to ship what was previously working. And then through that entire journey, I always wrote emails. We did email marketing and social media for other people, but I was too much of a scaredy cat to do it myself. So I was like the ghost behind people's accounts. We did like FIFA 21 and EA Sports and Vogue magazine and crazy names, but I was just like, no, not for me. And then my granddad at the time, who was alive, he was a maker himself. He went through the war in Cyprus here in 1974 and then was literally selling peer to peer cigarettes, one on one, scaled his own hospitality business and always loved his garden, loved making things. And I was like he taught me the word maker that was embodied in me. And I realized I'm half Greek, like half Cypriot. And I was like, the Greeks built things with their hands, like the Parthenon and all those things were bricks stacked together. The Egyptians built pyramids by stacking different types of bricks. Well, our generation, the nerds and the indie hackers, would stack, code and curly brackets and content. And I was like, that's a modern maker. Like we make things our way, and I can't lift things to save my life, but I can code things and glue software together. So that's where the spirit of modern maker was born. Like where I realized I can put two and two together my way. And I went on LinkedIn and I started yapping about how I'm shipping different products and different things. And exactly how I described here, where I was like, I tried this, it didn't work. I tried this and it did work. This is what I learned. And I didn't really have like a label as, a business consultant or a marketing consultant. I didn't know what I was. I was just like the guy who was building things and talking about it. And that started gaining traction. And I started on Twitter as a purple dog with laser eyes who was completely anonymous because I had my own healing journey to go through to just take the mask off. And people were messaging me on Twitter going, can you build this for me? Can you build that? And I would get deals off of Twitter with an audience of like 1,000 people or less because I kept showing the things I was building. And I would get on calls with people anonymously and I wouldn't turn the camera on. And they were like, I don't trust you. I'm about to give you money here. And I was like, I'm the laser-eyed guy.
Oh my gosh.
But eventually, took the mask off and showed my face. I tried to cover it as much as I could with an orange background and my long hair at the time. And then it took off. But in those moments, I think I realized at the agency, there was a few areas that led me to fall out of love with leading the team and the responsibility. It almost felt like I stepped away and hired people to do what I truly loved and just became a manager. Like I was going from meeting to meeting, closing deal after deal. There were days where like we'd close an 80K deal for a mobile app. And I was like, I want to refund you and go on LinkedIn and write stuff and express myself. So the saying was, the agency ate me. So I started shipping more businesses and following my curiosity. And through that, people kept asking, how are you doing this? So then I named the next business Modern Maker, and it's got a community now of 250 other makers. And we all ship businesses like a mother flower and we sell them and we market them. So that's sort of a little bit of a summary.
It's super, super inspiring. Like, I don't even need to ask questions because I just want to listen to you share and speak. I just think it's so interesting, like in this world of business, because I'm really surrounded by, I've worked in leadership development. So I've worked a lot in like the corporate space and yeah, with big companies like in fintech or in finance or in e-commerce or, even across like government agencies like UNICEF or World Bank. So very different industries. And I'd say recently in the last 2 to 3 years, I'm mostly exposed to solopreneurs who are, we both use that word about like heart centered, heart led, but there's like, it's, it feels different because what you're describing from the heart is following that curiosity, that passion, and bringing things to life. But there's this other end of the spectrum of like heart led or soulpreneur, if you will, where it's like your identity is the product. And I find that, like, especially in the coaching space or the healing space, and I know I've faced this so many times myself where I'm like, I can't put a product out because it's like, this is me. And if I put this thing out, or I do put things out, and if they're not accepted, it does feel like a rejection, even if it has nothing to do with me. So I'm really super fascinated by that part of your story where, yeah, you were young and tenacious and blah, blah, blah. So you just kept trying new things out, but you do have so much heart and soul. And the products themselves don't always have to be, the amalgamation of like all of that soul that you carry
Oh,
within
yeah.
you.
Mhm. Yeah,
Do you
absolutely.
know
I
what I
think
mean?
I was always in that boat as well, like scared to ship because what would they think? And as a musician too, it was the same with music. Like, I don't want to ship this song to the public. What will they think of me? And will I be judged? And whatever. The same applies in entrepreneurship, where I then realized the market will tell you if they like it or not. But you got to let it out there. And if it's a flop, so be it. Take the lesson, try it again, try a different angle, and the soul that comes out of it. Like, since you asked earlier about the word funnel, I always believed that you are the funnel because you truly are. Like, sure, you can get a program to automate a few emails and things, but if you are the centerpiece, that's where I always felt you get to be that own, like, you get to own your own category and be what you want at the intersection of your interests.
Well, how would you like, is there advice you might give to someone who's kind of caught in that cycle of like trying to get the perfect version of themselves that they're putting out in that product? Because yeah, I'm so inspired by how often you just tried things to find out and that you kept doing it. Like you didn't let it knock you down and go back to, agency life or join a corporate, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest realization I had was because I've had many coaches and invested a lot to try and learn things, and everyone has their own opinion. And I was always told you should do these, I don't know, sales calls this way, or you should be coaching people this way. And there's this thing called an ICF that you should do, and then here's another accreditation on, like, blah, blah, blah. And I went, wait a minute. I don't like this. I don't like this. I kind of like this. What is stopping me from building a model? I use the word model softly, building an idea that intersects the things I like. So I went, I love coding. I love writing. Can I be a poet who codes, for example?
Oh, I love that.
um, and then so emails and LinkedIn and all of this writing stuff fed, if this was a pie chart, it would feed a third of it. Then the other third was sort of the coding and all of that. And then I had another part which was all about energy and frequency, almost like a mystic in me who wanted to be present and hold space, and the traditional coaching thing or the healing. So what happens if modern maker is the intersection of all of these three things? Who's stopping me from putting myself out there and talking to each pillar? The energy, the coding, and the writing. And that's exactly what I did. And it took people longer to grasp what I did, but once they did, they were like, it's not a topic, it's an identity of someone you become. So whenever I share this, I'm like, we are now in 2026 where there's so much information, there's so many things. If you spoke to the intersection of your interests, you are by default a lot more interesting. The journey will take a little bit longer, but that's how you build a personal brand. That's how you test different ideas. And you can do it. Like in my world, as soon as I figured out the outcome could be healing, or in my case, it's making money while being yourself. If I knew the outcome was money, I could talk about energy in the context of making money. I could talk about code in the context of making money and write in the context of making money. So I used money as a lens word, almost like a filter where everything pointed towards. But then on LinkedIn, every day I'm talking about a different startup, a different project, a different thing at the intersection of these three pillars, I would say. So if you are stuck, if you are thinking, the only thing we have in us, I believe, truly is the ability to create. And creation can be infinite. It can be to yourself. It could be to an audience. But as long as you do create it, then you know the universe will find its way around that creation. And I firmly believe that I've recorded music albums that had, I still have them in the drawer and nobody ever bought them, but I created them for me. And then have had articles read by hundreds of thousands and millions of people. But again, they were created on the premise of exploring what's within. So if you're not doing it for them, do it for you.
Well, I know that from previous conversations that we've had, I know a lot of people enter your world through money, through better business, but by your own definition, they're actually coming into you because they're looking for something so much deeper. And they're finding you because your words are speaking to exactly that experience. Yeah, the money is great. And you do want that. You want your businesses to succeed, but there's something far deeper that they're really looking to work through to be able to, yeah, reach that level of quote unquote outer success, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, there's a saying like, give them what they want so you can give them what they need. So, there was a story, I can't remember who said it, which was like, you have a dog that had some fleas, and the person across, I think it was a father and a son or something, and he said, "Son, go give the dog some garlic." And the son runs, gives the dog garlic, and the dog won't eat it. He goes, "Dad, the dog won't eat the garlic." It's like, no, you're gonna wrap the garlic in ham and then go give the ham wrapped garlic to the dog. It's like, oh yes, it worked. So all that to say, whenever I would speak to purpose and philosophy and ideation, that was the garlic that people needed within. But
This is
whenever I said
brilliant.
money, oh yeah, that's what I want. And then they say, 3 weeks into our collaboration, they're like, oh, it's not about the money. I'm like, yes, but if I said all of this modern maker stuff, you would think I'm on some weird psychedelic drug in the middle of a forest.
If I'm like, here, buy this garlic, it costs a grand. I'd be like, no, thank you. I'm good without it.
So I mean, also in that sense, for me, because of that, I'm always a believer. Like, in copywriting, they say you got to persuade someone and basically convince them to do something. I was always of the nature of, I don't want to convince. I just get to show you what I'm doing, and I offer you little bite-sized chunks of it, whether it's free or it costs $1 or $5, and I welcome you in to test drive my little world. And if you like it, I'll make you a bigger offer. And that was the one offer, one post, one email a day, where I just orbit around people, and I invite them to go deeper if they want.
Having used some of your bite-sized offers now over the last 2 weeks, because 'cause I'm diving in to Iggy and others, I'm like, oh, because I can start to see the beautiful way that all of these ideas that I've had maybe didn't have a home. And by working through these different processes in a very bite-sized way, and also there's like limitations that you have in there,
Mhm.
like you can only have 3 of something or whatever it is. I'm like, oh no, but I've got 23. And then you have to like really force yourself to think in a way that simplifies everything and makes it so much smaller and so much easier also for me, not just for the client or the consumer. It's also just in my own thought process that I can think, okay, this is what makes sense here in this snippet.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially in the healing world, because I've got to mentor other people that do sort of similar things to what you do. Most people try to just sell the coaching off the bat, and it's like,
Don't you wanna just feel better, have good intuition, trust and know yourself, and feel connected to the magic of all that is? I mean, honestly, there's people like
yes,
me who would be like, "Yeah, I really do, please. Where can I sign up?"
yeah. The majority of us will want to do
Like
the
normal
bite-sized.
humans
Yeah.
will no.
We're probably in that 1 to 3% that are just like, yes, that's me. I'm sold.
Yeah. Like,
But
spirituality is great, but I need money. Oh, okay, 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 fine, fine. Here's your money.
and here's a little
Um
snack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true, a snack. So I know that to get to this place, where, like, we're talking, because 'cause I'm like, I'm so in awe of, the way that you've been able to pull this together so beautifully, but also you're a great communicator, so that helps. Kudos to you.
Thank you.
But there was definitely a healing journey that came along with being able to create such a potent, structure that really helps people. So you told us a bit about your backstory from the professional side and the work that you've been doing, but like, who were you to leave home and pack up your bags with a one-way ticket to America from Cyprus? I mean, holy crap.
I thought I was Jim Morrison at the time,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay, very good.
but
That'll do.
Jim to get to Jim Morrison and the Doors and all of that, and my love for the 70s and rock and classical music. We came from a family where my parents were divorced. My mom was a Bulgarian immigrant in Cyprus. My father was not necessarily the best figure growing up. He had his own flaws and loved his drinks and his nightlife and whatever. And I think from a healing journey, I was always an avoidant kid who was very good independently, loved my chess, loved my software stuff and this like mantling things. And then creativity sort of gave me that little bit of hope or a better place. And, as you're growing up, you really can't tell because you're just suppressing things or you're going through things. So for me, leaving a tiny little island on the other side of the world and just getting on a one-way ticket to LA was hope, was something new, something that allowed me to, now looking back, find who I truly was outside of this little bubble. So one of the biggest things was the one-way ticket because I didn't know how I was going to come back. I didn't know, like I just had two t-shirts, pair of boxers, some pants, and I didn't even have the guitar because I couldn't afford it. I rented one when I got to America. But being so isolated and so alone, so far away in a different time zone at the time, allowed me to think, allowed me to, for the first time, look inwards and see a little boy who was hurt, who had so many things. That was one element of it where I realized, I think it's Carl Jung who says there's a man and a boy, and he talks about the inner child, where I said, this little 7-year-old version needs a hug. And when I started exploring these works and reading more and getting immersed, I realized some of the patterns or some of the things that were within me that kept coming up were little traumas and openings that needed acceptance and healing and overcoming, as one. Then I had two or three other hits in my life that awakened me. um, both of my parents divorced twice, so I'm a first of six. I've got a sister in Australia, another brother in Liverpool. I'm in Cyprus, another sister in Brighton. So all of us tried to do this whole escape, which was a pattern. And then in my seventh, or probably no, ninth year in London, I was a software engineer, and I get a phone call from my mom, and she says, "We're losing the childhood home. I couldn't pay my debt." And I had two sisters at the time. She was like, "We're going to be on the street." And for the first time in my life, like I was working a normal job, getting paid, trains, London life. I had to expand my heart, soul, mind into figuring out how to come up with a sum of money that was previously impossible because I felt like a savior. And I found the money. We now own the flat. I handed her back a set of keys. On the business side, it was all this like pride and accomplishment and lots of tears. And on the inner side, I realized there was a savior that needed healing again. Like, why do you have to save the world? What happens if you said no? Why didn't you say no? And I went through self discovery there, which was another inner child exercise and probably more to understanding what all of it was. But it taught me a lot about, um, why I tried to be a savior and what validation maybe I lacked or I was seeking, or something in there came out on the bright side. And then at the agency, I realized again, making money was no issue. Handling money came easy to me. The business side was all rolling. And then I had a relative at the time who was, again, a software engineer, second cousin. I invited him in, taught him all that I knew. We like were two geeks coding, doing our thing. In hindsight, I felt like I tried to become the father to him that I didn't have. And he tried to take the shares of the company behind my back. And again, there, 2-year court case, trauma, healing, all of this. And here again, I realized it all stemmed backwards from something from childhood. Won the court case, won the business back, did all of that. But again, the search for truth never escaped me. That regret or betrayal or all that anger at first then went inwards, and I realized I allowed myself to get there. So there was something there to figure out. And then the last incident that was a big inner healing was at that agency. I was one of those memes that you see with the Mona Lisa and the bags under her eyes, like working 60 to 70 hours a week, 7 days. Like, money was good, but I had no life. And I was diagnosed with high blood pressure at age 26. I'm now 33. And at the time, I had a mentor who said, your wife's pregnant. You're going to have a baby in about a year. Is this the dad you want to be when this baby grows up? And that just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was like, broke down in tears. I was like, oh my God, I need to figure this out. I was someone who none of my parents came to my wedding because of this whole broken family tree and whatever. Did I want to be that for this newborn child? And we named her Nefeli, which is Greek for clouds, right? Something open, something new, something high up. And that phrase broke me to the point where I was like, you are making money out of fear for something. You don't know how much you want to make. You're flaunting all these numbers around. But it was the first time in my life I literally said, I'm going to work 3 days a week. I'm going to stick my mother flower finger up to all the rest of the days of the week. And I'm going to be a dad. I get to be the dad to this person. She's now 1.5. I work 3 days a week. I had to, on the opposite end, overcome silence, overcome doing nothing, fight the brain when it feels useless and worthless. And, all sorts of things come up when you all of a sudden are used to, well, now I realize I was probably hiding behind something and just occupying myself and filling my calendar versus keeping still and listening and going for runs. And, since then, I'm so grateful to be around my daughter and see her first steps and be present. And, I've run a marathon and I've done all sorts of other things that the mind wasn't able to do. But I always look back, and it's probably one of the first times I've been this open on a podcast. These were the 4 or 5 monumental inner events of my life that shook that tree pretty damn well, for me to have the healing that needed to go to happen for me to accept this version of me in the journey.
Well, thank you, first of all, for sharing all of that and sharing so openly. And I think it's Yeah, it's remarkable because so many people would have crumbled under that kind of pressure. Any one of those things would be enough to, send you into a spiral or into turmoil or into, I don't know, whatever escapism, drinking, or whatever it might be. And so there is this thing that you're talking about, like there's like healing from each stage, but it feels like each was an initiation.
Yes.
Like, those were the moments that broke you open from whatever trance-like state you were in, that actually broke you open and initiated you into literally that next level of who you were becoming,
Hmm.
and you kept saying yes,
Yes.
because he could have also fought it, and it would have been really hard for a lot longer, and I'm not saying it wasn't hard, because I'm sure that it was. But there was a part of you, and I'm getting goosebumps just saying it, like, there was a part of you that kept saying yes to the next invitation and saying, "Okay, these are the cards I have now, this is what happened." Like, I have faced personally, like, potential legal intervention once with a job that kinda screwed me over when I left, and I didn't have it in me. Like, I did not have that legal battle in me, and I chose, "You know what? I can't put my energy into this because it will break me," and I walked away, even though I had a high possibility that I would have won the case. You didn't do that, you know? Like, I'm not putting myself down with that, it was just a different situation, but you didn't. You chose to, "Oh, hell no. This isn't happening, I'm winning this back."
I mean, I remember at the time, now that you brought this up, this will resonate, where a therapist at the time, because I always go to therapy, it's like a thing that I cherish and I love, and it's part of my life, was the therapist came up and said, a child who had divorced parents. Back then, I had a room. We had a big house by the beach, whatever. And then my dad got remarried, and from one day to the next, I had to give up my room, give up my bed, give up all my belongings, and we moved across. And she gave me a key. I'll never forget this. She said, "For the longest time in your life, you could never say it's mine
Mm.
because you always had to give away things." And when the court case happened, I remember myself, I get goosebumps. I was like, this company is mine. And it was the first time it felt like the purpose behind it was like, I always recall, how you might have a kid under a car and the mom develops superpowers and somehow lifts the car. Like it felt like me in the moment going, this is my baby, pre-real baby, it's mine, and I'm going to do whatever it takes, inwards and outwards, to get there. And now I use that key in my day to day whenever I have to say no, or whenever I have to say yes, or whatever it is. Like, is it yours? Are you going to fight for it if it's not? And it comes in runs that I do. I've run countless marathons and won medals and things. And it's like, this thing is for me. Like, I don't say it's mine, but because it is for my joy, my healing, my growth, you can't take it away, and it's given me lots of gifts back, I guess.
It's like a really incredible mindset, and I think, like, without having meant to describe that, I think that is the difference of why you keep building things that work and that you love and that people are excited about, because so many people, when they're starting a business or they want things to work or whatever, like, they're kind of half in, half out. They're going to try something, but if it doesn't work on the first try, I'm just going to cut it and like try something else. And there's that part of you, and maybe it is just from your upbringing and all these experiences, that's just like, this is gonna work. Like, I believe in it, I'm going all in, and like the willingness to change direction or whatever else as you go. But there is something about that. And they say this a lot about, spiritual practices. Like, if you are all in, the universe will conspire with you to make it happen. If you're unsure and you're kind of in and you don't really know, like, no one can get behind that energy. No client can get behind that energy. Like, your supporters will be like, I believe in you most of the time. So there's that drive to just, if you're gonna do it, you're gonna do it all the way.
Yeah, that's why like the modern maker for me is the one who builds it all, but the mother flower is the one who does all the expressing. So you want to express it and mean it 110%. Otherwise, I mean, you know this better than I do. Like energy, frequency, all of that shows up. And if you show up with mother flower energy, that thing pierces through anything and everything. But the gift of entrepreneurship is nowadays you can ask, you can post. Like you don't need to invent something without asking. So ask them, like, will
What?
this thing
No.
work? I'm thinking about it.
Well, I do wanna challenge you on your statement that I know energy better than you, because I don't think that's true. I think I have fancier words, and I can describe it, and I can maybe teach it, but I don't think it's true. I think you really and I think you know that, but you really are working with energy as well, and that's what people feel in your presence, or at least that's what I feel in your presence. Like, I can tell that there's something more there than, like, you're a business wizard because there's other business wizards, like sorry, there's other mother flowers and all of this, not really, but,
We're all
um,
accountants, right? Like
yeah,
going back to the beginning, we're just
I have
accountants
worked
doing
very
accounting.
hard to not be an accountant, but if you could share with us, because we've heard a lot of the transformative power, like from your own story of what you've built, but you've helped so many other entrepreneurs. Are there any stories of like a business or an entrepreneur that like touches your heart where you could really see a shift from the support that you were able to give them?
Yeah. For me, like in the business that I'm at, money screenshots are really common. Everybody flexes these big numbers and whatever. One of the most heartfelt moments I've had was a student who played basketball in a European country. It wasn't the NBA, so the money was nowhere near, what American athletes would get. And he lived a life through all of that, and then he joined Modern Maker. And um, one day he shows up and he goes, "Man, I I bought my kids a Christmas present for the first time in a very long time." And like that broke me. I was so in awe. And I was like, man, thank you for sharing that. Like it didn't even cross my mind that now your kids didn't have Christmas presents. And it took me back and lots of places. The next year, the same guy goes, I bought my wife a car. We now have a second. I was like, oh my God, this is beautiful. Or I've had other people who've had hundreds of followers and they went through coaching and did things. And specifically, another one comes to mind where he's like, I'm able to have my second child and my wife can stay home a little bit longer because of what you've done. These are all little events. I fed last year 300 families through 5% of proceeds that come through Modern Maker, and that's always a thing. So even when you came through, know that everything that comes through, 5% goes to charity in memory of my granddad through his hospitality stuff. But seeing people, like, there's so many case studies where people have just come and I wouldn't let them through the door because of screening previous. And that's when, you know what, I see something in you. Like there's this version, there's a little hustler who's going to ship stuff and we're going to work it out. Or I had a guy who couldn't pay and I was like, you know what, we're going to do it until you can pay. Now he's got an agency himself and he's hired his family as well. It's like become a family business. A lot of this stuff is on my YouTube channel too, where I just interview some of these people, and it's very free form, sort of like this. Um, but for me, it goes above and beyond the actual money. It's what money can allow that is really heartfelt for me.
There's this healing power of, like, helping people believe that they can do it too, and believe they can
Yeah,
support themselves and their family and make these dreams come true. Like, it's so far beyond just because you do see that a lot, these, like, I had a 50K month and this and that, and you're like,
yeah,
"Yeah, okay, yay!" But, like,
yeah.
I'm sure that person has a deeper story they're not sharing, and if that's true, but it's really like, "Oh, wait, what are you creating this business for? Who are you helping? What are you able to do with it?" That's the real power in that work.
Yeah, I think once your why is bigger than your what and your how. I always told my students, like, I believe in you more than you believe in yourself for that period of time. And it's my duty to make you believe in yourself. Like, that's the true work that I believe, at least I love doing. But that's why, like, they come and they're like, I thought we were going to do business. And I'm there talking about philosophy and energy and frequency. And you got to do it from the inside out. Otherwise, I mean, the offer and the content, that's the easy part. You get like GPT and Claude and all of that nowadays. The strategy is easy if you believe that you can be. I think that's a part that we still grow into day in, day out. It doesn't stop, right?
And like the whole money thing, because I've had the interesting work as a coach of supporting clients who both have a lot of money and have come from money and have a lot of guilt and unworthiness and uncertainty around that money, as well as the clients who are working their butts off and can't figure out how to get money in. And actually, the pain is the same. And like the origin of that pain is the same. So it's not about the money. It's like everything else, all the energy, the beliefs, the like how valuable you feel, everything else that comes in. So it sounds like you're getting to the heart of that as well in
Yeah,
business building,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you may scale from a 5K to a 50K month, but your trauma, your wounds, and your healing process comes with you at
Mm.
a higher level. It's not going
It's always
anywhere.
there. Surprise.
Yeah.
Um, what is something that you wish you knew when you started Modern Maker?
Oh, that's a great question. I wish I knew how much more I was capable of, or I wish I had someone who could tell me I am capable of more because of where I sort of started. That was one. The second thing is I fought that agency lifestyle for so long, and I felt like I fought a version of me that was unhappy, even though he was smothered in, I was doing financially well and I had the team and I had all of that. I would wake up every morning putting a mask on and pretending I was someone I wasn't. The faster you can pull that trigger, and I understand you need savings, you need money, you need, you know, grounding and whatever. But if you can start as a side gig, as a side job, and build towards that thing, there's something so freeing that nowadays, looking back as a solopreneur, I've done 4 or 5 times more than I could have ever dreamt of back then. And I believe it is the happiness and the alignment and the inner peace that comes with it, because I wake up every morning and I still can't believe what I do. I'm like, this is so much fun. This is like play. I get to show up and be myself, as true to my offline self online, versus just being a manager hopping from meeting to meeting and sucking my soul dry. So I wish someone could just point to it and go, you can do it and you can do it now.
And what are you most looking forward to in the future? Is there anything you're creating or building you're excited about?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I went full circle. Now I'm embracing the builder again and I'm shipping things in and out.
Of course.
But growing up, I think the story where they took our house led me into a bigger rabbit hole where I want to create, assemble and own my own properties. So I've already now owned two or three, and I'm getting into that world. Was one, but all that to give back to the community of where it all started. So we've given money to create schools in Malawi using basketball as a force for good. We've given back to the basketball community here in Cyprus, where we bought stake in a company and helped them go up the ladder. Um, we've given to the hospitality industry. So for me, that the future will still be in the modern maker world. I think it will always be building things and marketing the things, embracing entrepreneurship. But there will be a bigger why in terms of giving back, beyond our family unit and things. Like, I've always had that in me, and every time I give, it just fills a different part. Um, So I don't know if it's going to be an NGO or whatever that may be. Something along those lines is coming.
So stay tuned. We're all looking forward to see what that looks like. And I'm going to link all of your links in the show notes and everything. But what is would you say the best place for people to get in touch with you? Where do you like to connect with them most?
My primary platform is LinkedIn. So Jacob Pegs. All the other platforms are the Jacob Pegs. YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all of those. And then my email list is where I hang out daily. I send a daily email for like 5 years in a row or something like that. So that's also on my LinkedIn in my bio. But yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. So, definitely anyone listening who is either creating a business for the first time or you've been building for a while and just want to be able to do it in a way that actually feels aligned with who you are and what your dreams are, you now know who Jacob is. Go find him, go sign up. Yeah, I'm so thrilled that we could have this conversation. So I'm really grateful that you took the time to be here with us and shared so much of your journey because it's really remarkable.
Oh, thank you so much for having me and creating a space for people to be true to themselves. It felt like home. So thank you.
Thank you. I definitely received that. And to everyone who has tuned in and is listening, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Don't Step on the Bluebells. And I will see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Don't Step on the Bluebells. If you enjoyed this conversation, please give the podcast a 5-star rating wherever you listen. And don't forget to hit subscribe and follow along so you never miss a new episode.